The hand comes up slowly, finds your nose, your mouth, your eyes. And they study you with an intensity that doesn't look random. Because it isn't. If you've ever held a baby, yours, a friend's, a niece or nephew, you've felt this moment. That little hand reaching up. The deliberate way it presses your cheek, traces your lips, covers one of your eyes and then studies what happens when you react. Most parents laugh. They think it's adorable. They lean into it. And it is adorable. But here's what nobody told you. That baby is not being cute. That baby is conducting a scientific experiment. And they've been running that same experiment over and over since the first time they could lift their arm, not because they don't know the result, but because they are building the knowledge itself. Here's what most people assume when they see this. They assume the baby is expressing affection. That the touching is about connection, about love, about closeness. And that's not wrong. There is love in that gesture. But that explanation, the affection explanation, only tells you what it feels like from the outside. It doesn't tell you what is actually happening inside that baby's brain. And what is happening inside that brain is something neuroscientists have spent decades trying to fully understand. Something so sophisticated, so precisely engineered by evolution, that we are still, right now, in the 21st century, discovering new layers of what it means. Here's what they've found. When a baby touches your face, specifically your face, the face of a caregiver, two separate but connected systems in their brain activate simultaneously. The first system is already famous. You may have heard of it. The second one is barely talked about outside of research labs. Together, they explain not just why babies touch faces, but how human beings learn to understand other people's emotions before they have words for any of them. Let's start with mirror neurons. In the early 1990s, a group of Italian neuroscientists at the University of Parma were studying the motor cortex of macaque monkeys, the part of the brain that controls movement. They had implanted tiny electrodes that would fire an audio signal whenever specific neurons activated. The experiment was simple. The monkey reaches for a peanut. The neuron fires. The electrode beeps. But one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A researcher walked in and reached for a peanut himself. The monkey didn't move. Didn't reach. Just watched. And the electrode beeped. The neuron that fired when the monkey reached for a peanut, fired again when the monkey simply watched someone else reach for a peanut. The same neuron. The same activation. Same as if the monkey had done it itself. These were mirror neurons. Cells in the brain that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that same action. Now here's where it gets relevant to your baby. Human infants are born with mirror neuron systems that are not just active, they are hungry. They are primed and ready, from the very first days of life, to observe, record, and internally simulate the actions and expressions of the people around them. When your baby watches your face break into a smile, their mirror neurons fire as if they are smiling. When they see you frown, their brain simulates the frown from the inside. But mirror neurons alone don't explain the touching. Watching and touching are different things. And the baby doesn't just watch. The baby reaches out and makes contact. Why? The second system is called predictive processing, or in the context of social development, emotional prediction modeling. Here's the simplest way to understand it. Your brain, and your baby's brain, is not a passive receiver of information. It doesn't just wait for things to happen and then process them. Your brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly, relentlessly, building models of the world, and then testing those models against what actually happens, and then updating them based on the difference. This is how you catch a ball. You don't consciously calculate trajectory. Your brain has a model of how balls move, makes a prediction, sends a movement signal, and corrects in real time when reality doesn't match the prediction. Babies do this with faces. From the earliest weeks of life, a baby's brain is building a model, a cause-and-effect map, of human facial expressions. If I press this nose, what happens? If I cover this eye, what changes? If I put my finger here, does the smile shift? Does the brow change? Does the voice alter? Every time that tiny hand reaches up and makes contact, the baby is running a controlled variable test. Change one input. Observe the output. Record the result. Update the model. This is not metaphorical. This is the actual computational process occurring in the prefrontal cortex and the fusiform face area, the regions of the brain most heavily involved in face recognition and social cognition. Think about what this means for a moment. Your baby cannot speak, cannot ask you a question, cannot say, "Hey, when I do this, do you feel something? And does that feeling change your face?" But they need to know. They urgently need to know, because understanding human emotional expression is not a nice-to-have. It is a survival skill. It is the foundation of everything social that will follow: language, attachment, empathy, relationships, every human connection they will ever have. So they build the knowledge the only way they can: with their hands. Now, you might be wondering, if this is about building a model of facial expressions, why your face specifically? Why not any face? Why not a stranger's face, or a sibling's face, or, actually, researchers have tested this, why not a realistic face printed on paper? The answer has two parts. First, familiarity. Your face is the data set the baby has the most observations of. It is the most reliable, the most consistent, the most repeated. It is the face that has appeared during feeding, during comfort, during every state of safety the baby has ever known. Your face is the ground truth for the model. Second, and this is the part that should genuinely move you, your face is the face that responds. A poster doesn't change when touched. A stuffed animal doesn't react. Even a stranger's face, though it might respond, doesn't carry the history, the predictability, the data richness, that yours does. Your face is the most scientifically valuable face in your baby's entire world. Not because you're their parent, but because you are the most responsive, consistent, high-resolution data source for the most important question they are trying to answer right now. How do humans work? Here is the analogy that I want you to take away from this video. Imagine a scientist who has been dropped into a country whose language they do not speak, whose customs they have never seen, whose people communicate through expressions and gestures they have never encountered before. This scientist has no textbook, no translator, no Google Translate. The only tool they have is direct observation and interaction. So what do? They find the most knowledgeable, most available, most responsive expert in this new world, and they study them. They ask questions through action. They change one variable at a time. They watch what happens. They build a model. They test it. They refine it. Your baby is that scientist. You are the expert. The touching is not random. It's not just affection. It is a research methodology, the only research methodology available to a being who has no language yet and everything to learn. And every time you respond, every time your face changes, your eyes soften, your smile shifts, you are not just reacting to your baby. You are contributing data to the most important research project that baby will ever undertake. The project of understanding other people. The next time it happens. The next time that hand comes up slowly and finds your nose, your mouth, your eyes. Look at their eyes. Not at the hand. At their eyes. You'll see something there that isn't just curiosity and isn't just love, though it's both of those things too. You'll see something that looks almost like focus. Because what you're looking at, in that moment, is a mind in the process of becoming. A brain that is wiring itself, in real time, for one of the most complex tasks in the known universe, understanding another person. And it chose your face as its first classroom. Before we get to what comes next, I want to ask you something. Before you watched this video, before you knew anything about mirror neurons, or prediction modeling, or the fact that your baby was running experiments on your face, what did you think they were doing? Like, genuinely. What was the story in your head? Was it just affection? Were they bored? Were you one of those parents who thought they were trying to figure out if your nose comes off? I'm not joking. Some of the answers I've gotten to that question are incredible. Drop it in the comments right now, before you forget, before the next video starts. Just finish this sentence. I always thought my baby was touching my face because... I will read every single one. Not the team. Me. And I'm going to be pinning the most honest, most surprising, most I cannot believe I thought that answers at the top. So if you want a shot at that, get down there now. And if this video gave you something, if it changed the way you'll look at that little hand the next time it reaches up, hit subscribe. Not because the algorithm needs it, though it does, but because every video on this channel is built exactly like this one. A behavior you've seen 100 times. A question you never thought to ask. And an answer that makes the ordinary feel extraordinary again. That's the whole project. And if that's something you want more of, the button's right there. All right. But here's where it gets harder. Because not every behavior looks like love from the outside. Some of them look like the opposite. There is a moment, and if you've held a baby, you know this moment, where they push back. Where the body goes rigid, the spine curves, and they arch away from you. Away from your chest. Away from your arms. Away from your face. And everything in you reads it the same way. They don't want me. That feeling is real. But the interpretation is wrong. What's actually happening in that moment, the neuroscience behind it, the evolutionary reason for it, and why understanding it changes not just how you respond to your baby, but how you feel about yourself as a parent. That's the next video. And I'll tell you this now. Once you know what that arch actually means, you will never read it the same way again. I'll see you there.